Cool. I think we're live now, but let me check the YouTube just in case because I'm still new at this.
We all are.
View on YouTube. Oh, damn. There's already 9.
Here we go. Yeah, it's working.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't really know how to do this, but we can just do like a quick introduction. So for everyone to have some context, maybe just like, what are the things you have been working on recently, and like, stuff that you like to think about. Eugene.
Okay, I'll go first. Hey, I'm Eugene, applied scientist at Amazon. But all opinions my own. I've been working on how to use GenAI to help customers find books, buy books, and read more books. So that's me.
Hamel.
I'm Hamel. I'm an independent consultant, just like Jason. I kind of bumped into Jason because he's an independent consultant, and we learn from each other on how to be an independent consultant. I work on large language models. I help people get unstuck with large language models if they don't understand like how to make them better, how to make them faster or cheaper, or they just feel stuck in general. That's kind of what I focus on.
Sweet. And I'm Jason, again, independent consultant. Funny enough, I kind of don't work on language models these days, so I'm actually kind of very separate from Hamel's work. These days, I mostly focus on two things. One of them is just getting folks like RAG applications and processes in place. So it's less about the application itself, but just thinking about like, how do you build software that is very like probabilistic? And so a lot of it just comes up from like, how do you measure things? How do you make sure you can like plan experiments? How do you prioritize these things? And a lot of my consulting actually has been around like helping engineers change the way they think, rather than just like, let's come in and like make the code a little bit better. So that's been a lot of fun to think about. And yeah, I guess I also work on instructor, but that's kind of, that's like my 20% project.
Do you really spend 20%? Like how? Yeah, is it really around 20% or?
Yeah, like 8 hours a week. It's like a violent 8 hours, but it is like 8 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, because
That's a lot of progress for only 8
there's
hours.
no code. Right, like an example is just another pedantic schema and then a paragraph. Like, and the prompt is basically that, and then I just put that to ChatGPT. But I mean, like for the most part, like even the examples that I will include in the blog post is effectively just the code that I've used to write to do experimentation. Right, like I'm probably gonna write another thing on like how to do like batch processing better. So it's like let's build batch processing with async IO that uses like disk cache and uses tenacity to retry and wait when you have rate limit errors. Like I've written that code.
Disk cache keeps coming up. Like you mentioned that that's like a common foot gun that people are not like using a disk cache. So this is like really fascinating.
Well, like otherwise, what would you use? Like an LRU cache wouldn't work because if your system went down, like if your script failed and it throws an exception, you're like out of luck, right?
Yeah.
And then like Redis is usually a little bit too advanced for most people. So I think the disk cache is actually a tool that people should be using way more.
Why are people not using it, you think? Any ideas?
I'm just realizing that people just don't know what's out there. Like, again, this is like the whole skill issue thing of like, there's just so many new programmers that I don't think people know about like tenacity and retries, right? Like super helpful. I think people are like learning about like the LRU cache, but they're running the issue of like, oh, I ran the script. It's going to take 30 minutes. It crashed 17 minutes in. I guess I'll just rerun it. like you would be surprised. Like, and even I do this. Like if the script takes 3 minutes to run and it fails at minute 2, like I would usually just like rerun it once I fix the error. Right? Like I don't think we're all super disciplined that we like the moment we hit an error, we have like a PDB trace that we're now like inspecting the state. It's like, oh shoot, didn't work. Correct typo, commit, bump, up arrow, enter. Right. But because like GPT-4 takes so long and like a lot of my batch tasks, I not only do prediction, but chain of thought. Like these things run for 20 minutes. Right. But the input is just a string, so it's very easily hashable, right? And if your input to the function is a pedantic model, if you set frozen equals true, it is also hashable. So you can model things really, really easily that way. But yeah, that'll probably be the next blog post I write.
Nice.
Yeah, trying to just learn more about SEO.
I think it works. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I think the instructor docs, like the most common search words for the instructor library is like async IO Python batch,
Nice.
because I have that blog post on the batch processing. Anyways, Eugene, do you want to ask the question that we talked about?
Oh, I guess just right before we went live, I was just asking Hamel and Jason, how do you guys label data? Do you label it yourself, or how? And then if not yourself, how do you scale across annotators? How do you make sure that everyone's following the same guidelines, has the same, like, do you spend time having two labelers labeling the same thing so you can measure inter-annotator reliability, or is that mostly a luxury?
I mean,
So I could tell you about what I did recently, if that is helpful. So I wish I had multiple labelers and all this stuff, but I was working with a client, and they had some production data. They're logging traces, but they have like something in production with GPT 3.5, and they're like, okay, Hamel, take this data, fine tune the model, like this data is good because it's in production, it's already been like screened. I made like classic mistake, which is like, okay, this data is good, great, like fine tune the model. So I should be slapped in the face. Like, you should come slap me in the face just for saying that word. I was like, oh yeah, the data is good. Like, I trust you. Like, I should know better. Like, we should, like, why would I fall in that trap? But anyways, like, train the model, everything, and it was like, okay, oh yeah, like the output kind of sucks. And it's like, okay, let's look at the data, or let's look at like what GPT 3.5 is doing in production. It's like doing the same thing. And there's also like the data obviously sucks. And it's like, okay, like, how do we make this better? Like, we need to, have outputs that are good, but like, and then my client was like, oh, this is such a daunting task. Like, how are we going to create all these labels? Like, seems like really boring. I don't know what to, I don't really have time for this. So what I did is, it's kind of like a coach or something. I said, okay, don't worry. We're just going to break it up. Like, I'm going to send you an Excel sheet every day with 25 examples, and you're going to label it. And I I just basically said 25 examples, just like encouraged him to do it. And like after enough time, I was able to have enough labels. And then I started then I used like GPT-4 to try to approximate him. And I, got it close enough, like over time, to where we were both confident, like, okay, I've like basically externalized him into an AI. And then I basically en masse like applied that on the data that he gave me before to improve all of it.
Did you use async IO and disk cache?
No, actually, like I did not know. But it was fine. It worked the first time. It was fine.
Oh, perfect,
Like,
perfect. Yeah.
and I didn't use async IO. Actually, yeah, I just used like just thread-based thread-based parallelism.
That's what I did
Very
as well.
naive stuff. Just thread-based parallelism. There's actually this like library I use called FastCore. It's like whatever, and then there's like there's like a parallel thing in there. It's basically using thread-based, like process-based, or not just thread-based parallelism. Nothing fancy.
Oh, interesting. Before I answer, I'm also curious, like, how do you deal with like rate limits? Do you do anything smart where you're like counting tokens and like catching like 496, like 429, and then doing that, or? Because I hit rate limits all the time.
No, just like sleeping in the right way, and
okay,
then
this is for you, Hamel.
yeah, just sleeping, and then like I just manage the number of threads. I don't hit it with like
right
all the threads I can, and I just let it run for like longer. I'm like, whatever, let it run.
Oh, I'm so impatient. Yeah.
I'll be ashamed. I just check if response is none. I retry after a 2-second sleep. But the thing is, I also reach out to contacts and ask them to increase my read limit. I was able to get my read limit up 10x.
You got that Amazon money, man. I'm just like a dude texting my friend at OpenAI like, hey.
That's what I did. I texted a friend.
Yeah, incredible. All right, I'm definitely more motivated to write that blog post now. Because
I'm looking forward to that blog post actually. I don't know, and maybe we can discuss a little bit more about this cache later. But what I do is that I just write line by line into a file that almost, and then if something fails, which very seldom happens, I just restart from that file and just check it. I wonder if this cache just automates that completely.
Yeah, and also it just lets you store like more complex objects.
That'd be nice.
Right.
Yeah.
So like my cache like returns the pedantic model and like,
I see.
right, you can do
That'd be
more
cool.
complex things based on how you do it. But anyways, my answer is very similar to Hamel's for companies these days for labeling data. I basically make labeling data like as important as like refactoring code, and I also make refactoring code pretty important, right? The way I've described it is labeling data is part of stand-up. If stand-up is like what is happening today, what is my plans for tomorrow, and what went well and what went poorly, labeling the data is basically reviewing like the status hero of your AI model, right? So that's one thing. But I'm curious because at like large scale though, because I've done like label projects, data labeling projects where the budget was like $300,000, and there you do a lot of relabeling, you do a lot of like consensus building. If you have like specialists, it's very different than if you have like, for example, like low skill, like low English instructions. You can make more complex tasks. And so when it comes to actual data labeling, I usually just optimize for like throughput, right? It's like if the task is like labeling a nested structure, I want to break down the structure into like multiple individual tasks. For these individual tasks, I want to build like hotkeys to make that label faster. There's like a calibration period for labelers, and like I'll like make them label things I know the answers for, and if they don't agree, like 80% of the time, I like fire them like with an API. Like there's so much complexity that goes on. And I'm sure like Mechanical Turk has a ton of that built in. But yeah, like there's so much nuance in how you do that, and a lot of it ends up also just being like learning or having the experience of knowing how to break down a task to be easily labeled is really tough. Because you can imagine right now I do a lot of this is actually a perfect example. Like I'm doing a lot of 1 hour long transcripts to summaries and action items. Like how do you label that task? Like, I'm not reading the hour long transcript. Like that's not even like even if I hired English teachers where they could only read this transcript once, like it's still insane, right? Like it just would not be effective. But if we believe that like, oh, like you could be a better investor or like a better person if you like had better meeting notes or something, like you want to have good label data. So a lot of the experimentation there is okay, well, if it's action items, then maybe the first task is like ask whether the action item is part of the transcript. If we have like citations as part of the action items we extract, then maybe the first level of task is just, does the action item like link up to the cited statement in the transcript? Because that could be like a 30-second task, right? JSON, I'll do the database integration, action item, JSON. Like that's super easy. That could be done with the LLM. That could be done with like some like super non-native English speaker. But again, it's about like breaking this task down, because even if you have high skilled labor, like a 1 hour transcript with a 3-paragraph meeting summary note, like that's still so hard.
Yeah, what I found like super helpful, like in this example, like I was the client was writing queries because it was natural language to query, and the label, it's not just like label it good or bad. It was, or not just like, okay, write a better query. It's like critique the query. So I had like a separate critique, and that critique is like, basically use that in like a kind of like a chain of thought sort of way. Like first of all, to align GPT-4 like to him based on the critiques, but then also to like get a model that is going to fix the data to use to like generate critiques.
Yeah, I mean that's a great part too, where I think even in like the RL community, what you learn is like preference data is much easier to collect than like label. Like,
yes,
it's much easier to label between two things than to label one thing. Like a great example was we wanted to tag outfits a long time ago, right? But if you just gave it one image of an outfit, the labels are very generic. And then if you say, okay, given two outfits, only use words that differentiate between these two items, that label becomes like way higher quality, right? I can imagine something that pop up as well. There's a question from the chat, Fastcore from Fast AI.
Yeah, I'll put a link to the specific parallel thread based thing. I'll find it and I'll put a link.
So you should just write the blog post, man.
Yeah, ahead of you.
Not
I
everything is
dropped the LinkedIn.
Nice. But yeah, so yeah, in that same sense, it's like because we have LLMs, even if we still want human labelers, we should just say like for all the action items that were extracted where the LLM says it's not relevant, double check. Right? Because maybe we care more about like I think we care more about like recall than precision from a lot of these action items, but like only under certain situations. But if it's only evaluating an extraction task, you can't measure recall. So it's like, well, maybe recall is just too expensive to measure because recall requires us to read the whole transcript. Right. And then my technique here as well, let's just have a secondary process and spend like 3 times more GPT tokens to try to extract all the action items. But even in the simple task of like action items, like what is precision, what is recall, how do you label that data quickly? There's so many variables. Yeah, it's a little wild, like how complicated this. Like I can't imagine what you're dealing with. I think what are you labeling right now? Like book topics or?
There's a lot. So it's like, there's like content moderation. There's things around content moderation. There's things around engagement. So what I realized is that a lot of the things. Okay, so firstly, if it's very objective and straightforward, we actually don't need to label it. Just train them all to do it.
Yeah.
Now the stuff is when it's really nuance and preference. Like, hey, let's say I'm talking about a sci-fi space opera book. Should I call it a space opera book or a sci-fi book? Or something different, like where's the boundary where it becomes a hallucination? So things like this are very nuanced. And then also there's really different things, right? It's almost like relevance is a measure of search, right? Hey, maybe again this example, I don't know how familiar you are with the book called My Little Pony. It's essentially a children's book. Should it be horses or should it not be? You can imagine, yeah, My Little Pony is a horse. But then you can imagine if I'm searching for horses, I probably don't want to see My Little Pony. I want to see books on horses, breeding horses, equestrian, trading, etc. So it's very nuanced. What I found, the hardest part of this was, just getting the team together, like product and science and whoever else is needed to really come to a good definition. And once you have that, you can write those guidelines for human labelers. And once you have those guidelines for human labelers, turns out you can actually reuse the guidelines for AI labelers as well. So I think that was so far for me the hardest thing. And then of course I think a lot of things that Jason mentioned, which is, you want to graduate your annotators, right? I think it's the same thing. It's like not all annotators will be aligned with your guide, and therefore you also, when you want to have that annotate a sample that you have ground truth for, you compute iterator reliability. If it's good enough, you pass them through. But then that's now really blocked by throughput, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, hey, if you only need 1,000 labels or 2,000 labels, is it worth it to spin up all this training, or instead of just labeling yourself, right? So, and I know like Hamel just does 25 a day. That like 25 a day over several weeks, you can build up to 1,000 good samples, and maybe that's enough. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really important for the people who are building the requirements to label that data first, right? It's like if I want to write the training document, like I should be labeling 1,000 things, because before I even send off the data labeling task, I already know so much about the problem.
That should be made a rule. Actually, I will make that a rule. I will make that a rule. Yeah.
Yeah, because like, even with like
even 100 or 500, you get a sense like so a lot of times when people are labeling, let's say we're labeling defects, right? People will be thinking, oh no, there's this content safety defect, there's this spelling defect, etc., etc. Let me ask you this: have you ever seen a spelling defect come out of a large language model? I've seen it once out of the thousands of labels I've done it.
I have
so
plenty.
you've seen spelling defects, really? Wow.
Yeah, because my spelling is so shit. I think it's confusing the model.
Oh, okay. maybe.
Like I'm not even joking. Like because I do a lot of like speech to text,
Yeah,
and then I
I
correct
see, I
it,
see.
and like my corrections with the LLM will still have my spelling errors. I'm like, oh,
I think once you look at the output, it gives you a sense of what it's like and how you can
Yeah.
better label it. That's why I think what Hamel is doing is it's like working with his client to have them see 25 that he has selected to do very well. Oh, and then one tip I have about labeling is that once you've labeled a couple hundred samples, you can actually train a model that does the labeling, but you don't actually use the model directly, but you use the model, and depending on what you want, you can pick the edges. So you can imagine it's a probability distribution, right? You can pick the edges so you get more confidence on those edges, or you can pick the middles so you can push the probability to the side, and then you use that model to help you pick what samples to label. I found that astounding, and eventually that model can automate your labeling.
It's great. Yeah, this active learning. No one talks. People don't talk enough about active learning. It's like really
It works.
interesting. It's like everyone in practice does active learning, but then for some reason it's not talked. Maybe it's because there's too much applied, like
the
examples
Chroma team,
involved.
the Chroma
Chroma,
team
okay.
first built a active learning tool.
Wow.
Like ChromaDB was like, I mean, I can't quote the origin, but like active learning first starts by finding like things on the boundaries of that margin, right? Like you can use a vector database to find what's on those boundaries. So I think there's like some connection with that. Hamel, I have a question for you, which is how do you do active learning for LLMs? Because if I do embeddings or embeddings classification, it is really easy because probability space is like a single float. But like, how do you do active learning on, or maybe you just don't do active learning on like LLMs in that way? Like, because I can imagine like you could use the logits. Maybe you're using like BERT to do classification and looking at weights. Like I've seen stuff in like 2019 looking at the gradients of predictions to figure out like which data points, had they been labeled, would maximize the loss and sort of the gradient of these models. I haven't seen anything.
I've tried to use Perplexity to see like, okay, so Perplexity meaning
Not
what
the
are
search
the
engine.
things that surprise the model the most, essentially, But for some reason that hasn't
Sorry, Hamel.
necessarily,
Is that Perplexity on input? So you
Perplexity
measure
on prediction, but this is only for open models. Like I don't know how to do
the
that.
Perplexity
with
on the prediction.
OpenAI.
Okay, clear. Okay.
Yeah. Predict on prediction. And so basically it's like if I were to, the intuition is how surprised is the model, like of this, input. For whatever reason,
Does it correlate? Does it correlate well? Does it help you identify?
I don't have a good enough. I only tried it like on one thing, and that domain was a little bit janky-ish in many ways. So I don't really know. I would want to try it again, maybe in like a more controlled setting and see. There could be something there.
I'm gonna try that.
It could be something there.
Personally, I train small models to help me with active learning, right? So I train small model. Essentially, you take the output of the LLM, you label a couple hundred samples, and then I train. It's almost, you can think of it like training a reward model, right? A reward model predicts high reward, predicts low reward. Then you run all your outputs against and find out which one is the low reward one, and then you can figure out, hey, what's going on, and then just pick the ones that are high reward to fine tune the model again, or pick the ones that are low reward deliberately to try to fix them, just to improve on them and then fine tune them. So there's so many things, but again, I'm offloading a lot of my work to the machine to try to learn the logic automatically.
That makes sense.
With Perplexity, you don't
makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm surprised how fast it works with so little data. But with Hamel's idea of Perplexity, you don't even have to train a model. It just comes for free if you have access to the logits. So
I was just being lazy. I mean, this like when I was describing the lazy approach.
That's perfect. I'm lazy too.
I'm waiting.
I haven't done too much like RLHF or DPO. I haven't like done it too much. I fiddled with these things, but I haven't.
Yeah, I feel like Mada from last week would have a lot to say about this, given that he's been training a bunch of these language models.
One thing that keeps coming up is like, okay, one like serious foot gun is like when you fine tune a model with a chat template, but then the person, I always like a lot of times I hand off models or there's some handoff, and like the person using it uses the wrong subtle uses the wrong chat template. Like, oh, why is there a difference? Like, like I had a client just say yesterday say like they had like a Python client to the API and a Go client, and the Go client was doing something different. And I was like, okay, like something is different with your prompt templating. And it's like very easy to like get this wrong. And I'm almost at the point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to build a tool that inspects production traffic. Just build a classifier. So like, can you predict like what is like production traffic versus training data? And if you can, like, I'm not nothing like cool, just like this is like text classification, like whatever, and just like show like, hey, something is effed up in your
Hamel,
yeah.
You should build a linter, a prompt linter, and everyone will use it. I need it. And the reason why I'm smiling so much when Hamel was talking about chat template, I don't know if you recall, Jason, a long time ago, I was talking to you. I was fine tuning a model, and the fact that there was a space or no space between the start of string and the start of instruction token, that made all the difference. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just a poor fine tuner, but that just blew my mind. And I think I posted something on Twitter, and you actually responded to that. About
it's the biggest mindfuck. It's my biggest nightmare and paranoia, like at all times. Like, hey, is the prompt template like messed up? Like, what's your prompt template? Like,
have you seen the markdown result that I got yesterday?
Yeah.
What is that?
Okay, so one of my clients, he puts in table data in the form of CSV, but it is like the form of CSV data that comes from CSV reader. And so if it was like one column was Jason and the other one was like Eugene, it would be like quote Jason, quote, comma, quote, Eugene, quote, with no spaces. And so I was like, oh, like I wonder if the white space matters. So I started generating like fake data sets of like random words and made it do like lost like haystack search stuff. So I said like for a random row, find column 1, give the LLM the value, ask for a random column 2, right? And so accuracy is like, could you find the column? For a 16,000 cell table, Markdown performs with like 80% accuracy, and CSV performed with like 60% accuracy.
Big jump.
Yeah, I mean,
makes sense.
16,000 cells is a lot of cells, but like I was very surprised that there was even such a gap. And the Markdown without where you replace all the white space with a single space outperforms white space where like the pipes are aligned. There's like a ton of stuff like that has blown my mind.
Yeah, I've seen. I haven't worked with data contexts that are so large, but when I'm working with Cloud APIs, I've seen that really respecting the XML format, and it's very straightforward, right? There's a XML to dict or dict to XML. Just create a JSON and convert to XML. It works really well. It works super well.
What's your impression of Claude versus OpenAI? Just out of curiosity. If you're using Claude, so I'm just curious. Like,
so it could be sensitive here. So because I work a lot with Claude and my employers invest in Claude, but I think it works pretty well. I use it. I have no complaints. It actually works pretty well. The only main thing is difference in XML. Use XML instead of JSON. Yeah.
What a strange pick. I guess it's like better white space, but at this point, may as well use the YAML.
That's what I found. Let me ask you this. This is a great question. Let me ask you this. Have you found a difference when you're communicating instructions in bullet points or when communicating instructions in sentences?
I almost always use bullet points. I don't even know if I even see a difference. I just wouldn't use sentences because sentences is too hard to read for the developer.
What about you, Hamel?
I don't really feel like I have a strong biased towards either one right now.
I've tried both. For some reason, bullet points just don't work well. I don't know
Interesting.
why. I don't know why. I keep asking
You've
people,
made
hey,
this
how do
tweet
you?
before. You've made this tweet
I
before.
have made
remember.
I have made this tweet before. I have made this
Yeah.
tweet before because I have evals and it just takes like 5 minutes, 10 minutes to run, right? Just change it and then run and see the output. It's I don't know why. Like
Oh.
sentences lead to more eloquent output, and then like bullet points,
Interesting.
number bullets, alphabet bullets, etc. And then even simple things like, let's say, imagine your input data actually has HTML tags. You
Mhm.
might think that you should clean the HTML tags because humans can't really read HTML tags, but leaving the HTML tags in there actually works better. Again, I don't know why. There's so much I actually don't know about how these
Well,
things work.
I think the HTML tags make sense because, like, if you just think about if you're at the end of a token and you look at like the key values and the attention, you would imagine like, oh, it's gonna attend, it's gonna really be able to figure out like where to start looking again, right? Like you
Or
know
you
when it
can
starts and when it ends.
or you can imagine HTML tags with bold, right? The bold tag or the link tag that suggests these things are more important. But this is really interesting. Okay, so I think Ashok Toma asked, have you guys seen? Oh, there you go. I can tell you that I have not seen a difference in this.
Yeah.
I use all caps sometimes.
All cap works. All cap works for sure. Do not return anything else but JSON. But yeah, it's funny because like you guys talk about this in terms of the outputs of the language model, but I mostly use bullet points and markdown for two reasons. One, I use GPT-4 to clean up my prompts, and it uses markdown. And two, by using markdown, it is much easier for like code review, and it is
Yep.
much easier to do like human reading. Maybe this is like my Python background, but like whitespace is just easier for the human, right? Like if I change a bullet point, the code like in GitHub, it's very clear what happened. But if I rewrite like a super long line, now just like random words are being inserted, and I find
That's
actually
that
like
makes
a bit of a
sense.
quality of life, especially when there's I don't have enough data where I have like 10,000 samples where I run this eval and like a 2% change is stat sig. So like that's also super hard to
So
measure.
Jason, did you say that you use GPT-4 as a linter? You run all your prompts through GPT-4.
Roughly, yeah.
That actually makes pretty good sense.
It's
Because you would imagine that these models are pretty good at writing their own prompts.
it's not even that. It's just like I will just repeat myself constantly. Like as I build a prompt, like I have instructions and some tips, and then I run it and I have an error. Well, I'm just gonna like reiterate the error, and then I'm just like add so many replacement. Because like for example, I want to ask like a title and a body, and then I say okay, for the body use markdown, and so I basically do like append only on my prompt.
Yep.
Then I get some evaluation outcome. And then I put this prompt back into the language model, say like clean this up, like don't be too repetitive, use like markdown. I put that back in, I rerun it, and usually it's the same performance, but there's just like it's just like more readable.
That's great.
I've been using
remind myself
Cursor
to do that more.
to write
okay.
prompts,
Oh, interesting. What is that like?
and then you get a diff. It's like pretty cool.
Oh yeah. I use a Recast for that. Yeah, but I actually like that idea too.
What is Recast?
It's like a
Ooh.
command bar that you can use. It's just like a command bar. So like instead of like command space, I do like control space.
It's the alternative Spotlight on Mac.
Yes.
It's like it's like a better Alfred. I mean, Jason introduced me. You introduced it to me like a few weeks ago. I've been trying to use it, and I actually like it better than Spotlight now. So
yeah,
okay, Recast. I'm gonna try that. I've been using Alfred. No, try.
Yeah, but one of the nice things they have,
it's like an Alfred. Yeah.
But the thing I do is I have a lot of AI commands. So I built my library of prompt that says like, here's the prompt, squiggly brackets, selected text, output. And so I'll just like select text like every tweet I write, like if I want it to be spell checked, I just do like Command A, Control Space, like eloquent or like all lowercase or something. And you can like, I have build a bunch of different prompts to clean up different text in different ways. Yeah,
I use it slightly differently. I really love the deep links, right? I think it helps me navigate what I need to do so much faster.
Explain.
So deep links, so you can imagine deep links is like, So imagine, okay, I want to start my Spotify playlist, deep work, and then I go to Spotify playlist, deep work, and I copy the URL. Deep links is like, if I just type deep, bam, it just starts a playlist. Or I have all this different, maybe an Asana, my document repository, my code repository. I don't have to go through the browser anymore. I just do it through that, and it opens a deep link to that, and it just puts me in the flow better. I find it, yeah. I'm just trying
This
to
is
reduce using my
Recast?
mouse. Yeah, this is Recast. So just look
one
up
of
for
my favorite things about Recast too. I used to have a different. I used to use Expanso. I don't know if you've seen that. It's like a text expander. Do you guys use text expanders at all?
I use the Alfred in Text Expander.
Okay, yeah. It's great. I love it. So like I have a bunch of different like shortcuts. So like if someone wants to book a meeting, if I just do :CAL, it expands to my like Cal meeting.
Nice.
So simple, right? But I also do
I
it
have
for
one for like GitHub Actions. I have like, for example, it's like all this boilerplate bullshit. You just
you're advanced then, because I just do doc links.
Wow.
So if I do like :partial, I go to the instructor partial docs. If I do like like instructor tips, it goes in like. But
I should try that. I
should definitely do. I should make like an expander for like an instructor call. Right, it just does like import OpenAI import instructor client equals base model API call.
On my cell phone, I have like the keyboard. It's like double @ just as my email. It like expands.
Yeah,
on your cell phone?
So good.
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
Wait, how do you do that on your? Is it Apple phone?
Yeah. You just go to your
check.
keyboard settings, and you can put like.
Oh yeah, the shortcuts. I know.
different-
I've seen that like OMWs on my way. Hey, I should have thought about it. I copy paste my calendar link all the time. Damn it.
Yeah, so you just do like maybe like @cal or something.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's smart. I don't do that on my phone. I'm gonna do that soon.
That's smart.
Yeah, it's just life pro tips, man. Ryan asked, would it be amazing to make a blog post on your prompt related AI shortcuts? None of them are very like, so this is the question. None of my prompts are very clever. It's just like, this is the input to speech to text. There might be transcription errors. Rewrite this to be more clear. Or it's like, rewrite this voice message in Markdown. Because yeah, like 90%, maybe like 70% of all the text I write on my computer is speech to text. And so I just use it to sort of clean it up.
So this thing that you're doing is like, it's Recast, this like where you select text and it pushes it into. How is it wired up? Is it like an API call that you're making and then whatever? Or is it opening up a ChatGPT window and pasting it there for you or something?
It's all in Recast. You just copy pastes the text and then Recast, you paste it into Recast.
Yeah, let me see if I can share my screen. Maybe this is gonna be crazy. Share screen, window. Right.
Nice.
If I just do, this is some text that I'm gonna write down and let's see how it goes. Right. I just like command. Oh, you can't see this at all.
We can't see the Recast. I think it's stuck to the window.
Yeah. I didn't even see you writing that phrase.
Yeah, I use speech to text.
You use speech to text there? Okay.
Yeah. Come on. You think I'm gonna type for you, man?
So is that like Recast too?
No. This is my buddy's application. Yeah. Recast is awesome. Jason, you should write an amazing blog post to see what kind of AI related prompts you can have.
So what application is this speech to text thing using?
I'll promote it in a second because I have a promo code. But yes, if I do that, you can see this, right? So I'll have like improve writing, and it'll just rewrite it. You just paste in response, right?
And is that? Did you have to wire it up to GPT-4 or something?
No,
it comes with the thing.
So you can if I just edit this AI command, this is basically it.
They have AI commands.
Yeah,
like
and so you can do
They can connect to APIs.
Yeah.
So Recast comes built in with it, and there's a plugin for it as well.
Yeah.
So it's up to you if you want to use the Recast approach. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the blog post. Right. So
there you go. That's the blog post.
Yeah, so this is a bunch of stuff. It's obviously, it takes some getting used to, but I really like it. And then my friend's transcription app is called Better Dictation.
You have a promo code?
I forget what it is. I actually don't remember.
Do you use this to write code? Can it write code? Do you use it to write code? It's like
I
curiosity.
haven't. I should, because I can just have a speech command create the instruction, right? So I should be able to like select code and then do like the instructions, or I can just like write the language instructions and say like generate this in Python code. So
that website doesn't work. Is that?
Oh, I
is it
spelled it
possible
wrong.
there's
A
Okay.
Yeah.
better dictation.
I spelled it wrong again. This is why I can't type. My hands are messed up. Betterdictation.com. This one.
You
Yeah.
should, okay, so it's now 1:45 PST. You should check your friends' traffic to see if there's a bump at this time. I think that'd be pretty cool.
And then use Jason20 to get it for $20. It's a lifetime license, because what it does is it just downloads the Hugging Face fast English transcription model and runs it locally. But it's actually nice because like there's other companies that do that for like $9 a month, and it's like that just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you should promote this on Twitter, man. That's pretty good.
But
get that affiliate income going.
It's sick. Yeah, I'm trying to get that worked out. But this is just a way of tracking it. But yeah, I'm like the #1 user of it. I use it like 3,000 times a week. Like, because I just do everything. But I'm gonna try to write the code that way. Like, I'm gonna try to make an AI command that writes code.
That'd be cool.
And you see that it's fast, right? It's like it's very fast and more accurate than the Apple text-to-speech. Maybe not for long, but for now, definitely.
This is amazing.
I guess the question. Oh, go ahead. I guess the question I have is maybe for folks out there, any hardware limitations for this? Just any laptop would work, right? Or I think some RAM.
It's like it's going to be faster for like M1, M2, but I don't know. I think he has a Windows version.
Yeah.
It seemed really snappy when you were demoing it live right now.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, but yeah, it is really just like that simple. Like $20 forever, and
you know what it forces you to do? It forces you to speak concisely. Because if you're transcribing that, at least for me, I go in circles sometimes, so it doesn't work.
But that's why you then have Recast to clean up the text.
To clean up. That's true.
Because if I want to write a blog post, my blog post basically I press Command P and I just go like. I think the main issue with frameworks these days not letting me write my prompts is that I need to do a lot more string formatting to the doc. Okay. Command A, rewrite shorter, no duplicates. Like, it's sick. It's the only way I can get a blog post out in like 40 minutes, right? Like that's
pretty insane.
Does it have a mobile app or something? Like you can go for a walk and start dictating?
No. Because then like wish it would have to run on your phone. Right. But I think I'm surprised that there hasn't been like a standout voice note-taking app. Like I know like Hassan built one for mobile, but like I really just want like a record button. But I think that's also why I work at Rewind.
There's one. There's something called Storied.
Yeah.
I guess they changed their product. Never mind.
Yeah. But yeah, my goal there is I'll just work at Rewind, get it built up, and then Rewind just listens to everything, and then you're good to go. Just get your entire life transcribed, for better or for worse. But Hamel, was there anything on your mind? What is the
Not really. I mean, I think I'm still discovering what it's like to do consulting.
Mm-hmm.
Still like learning. I think I'm pretty bad at the marketing part of it, like packaging and marketing. I think I'm learning from you, Jason, on that.
I've been reading a lot and I've been doing it violently, but it's also because I will need this when I go get my embassy interview. All right.
In what way? Then your embassy interview.
To go enter the country, they're gonna ask me like, why am I exceptional? I'll be like, hey, see all this my website, like Look at these clients. Look at all the logos. You can just like be paid. Like, why would you be loud and paid? You can just be paid.
Right.
True.
But no, the marketing stuff has been super interesting. Like, this is basically like 70% of it.
Yeah, I started reading that book. That book looks so like slimy,
the
but
cover, right?
it's
The
it's
purple
good.
and the dollar
It's good,
bill.
and it comes in like a plastic wrap, like a thin plastic wrapping around. Like, what book comes with like a plastic wrap around it?
Look at the book. The book looks like it's written in Google Docs.
Probably is.
Right? It is like clearly written in Google Docs. It's like you can see by the double spacing. Like, but it's like this book has definitely made me like $6,000. Right? Like, like there's no way this book won't make me like 20 grand. And it's just like it's like so silly. What are your thoughts on it? Because you just started reading it, right? Or did you finish?
No, I just started. Yeah, I think it's there's like a mindset kind of on how to
charge more.
do marketing that I think developers are like shy of, like that I am shy of, honestly.
Yeah, you just gotta be a little shameless. Yeah, I mean, it's not even charge more, right? The real thing is like, well, there's this like value, there's the value, and if you just charge less than the value, it's a good deal, right? And so you just like make it more valuable, right? The example that like he talks about in the book, it's like if you want to sell hot dogs, like if you want to make more money selling hot dogs, what do? Like, do you make a better hot dog? Do you like no, you just like sell in front of the football stadium, like after the game. Like same hot dog will just make more money. And so like one of the things I took away from that and maybe is like, okay, well, I should work with like Series C companies that have revenue that can like have churn. If I make all of their engineers 2% more efficient, that's actually much more valuable than like coaching their like someone's like first hire, right? And so like the book has really helped me sort of find what that audience looks like. There was a question.
How's the private equity pitching going? Anything interesting?
So this was actually from an introduction. So there's like a main guy who's doing the proposal, and then he basically says like, hey, like if I get this is the budget allocated for you to help me with some of the technical due diligence work. Yeah, I think we're just waiting now. We submitted the proposal yesterday night, so I'll get an update. I sent like a WeVA proposal. Pretty interesting, curious about that. And then there's like a Zapier one in the works. So
what does the technical due diligence involve?
I can't say too much about it, but basically a private equity firm is trying to acquire a small AI startup. And so part of my work is just going to be like, I'm going to benchmark this with their competitors in the space and with open source models and tell you how legit this is.
Do you get a chance to look at their code base?
This is like, so there's like a request for proposals.
Okay.
There's like a one pager, and then like all the consultants basically send them a PowerPoint that's like, Jason is an expert in AI and we'll do these 7 things, and we're going to charge you this much for it. But maybe someone else will say like, oh, we have a expert in EU data privacy legislation, and like this is more important for your proposal. So it really depends. But for me, it's mostly just understanding like how the PE world works. Like fees are structured very differently at the high end.
Yep.
The leverage is very different. Like this is more like a request for proposal thing, but like I've had some of my buddies recommend me just going to these firms and just saying like, let me help you systematize. Like if I have like the RAG system, right? Like not like the.
Oh, it's definitely the stadium thing. Like that's the private equity. Like that's like that's the best place.
Like I can just build you the same RAG application for 86 of your different companies. Like that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's like, okay, if I just set up Llama Index 86 times, and then I say, you know what, like you can charge me 10 grand, but I want like 50 basis points of every like turnover you get, you'll be a millionaire in like 10 years. Like that's crazy. But that's just like me understanding the business and understanding like it's also going to be selling to a different market. Like with like WeVA, I just like met Bob, the CEO. Whereas with like private equity, it's a lot more complexity, I guess.
Yeah.
So learning. There was a question for you, Hamel. Oh, I'm curious too, because the cursor guys are fucking so smart. But I also don't use cursor because I'm so used to just typing.
Someone turned me on to this idea of like just writing all my notes in cursor, because what ends up happening is like because of the RAG or whatever, like it starts to become powerful, and I've started to experience that myself. Like not writing code, but notes.
I actually like that a lot because that I can immediately see why it's beneficial.
Yeah.
Like all my
It
blog
didn't click
posts
with
would
me,
just be
like yeah.
Oh,
And
shit.
so I was like, oh my God. And then it like started to really be powerful. It's like, wow, this is something.
Yeah.
So you specifically use it only for your notes?
That's my favorite use case.
How is it powerful with your
like,
notes with the RAG? Could you?
yeah, it's like, okay, anytime I want to reference my notes. Like if I'm writing a new note or if I'm writing anything, it's able to just reference my notes.
Like
And that
Eugene,
is
think of
insane.
this, right? Like in SEO, you want to be able to deep link back to your other blog posts,
Yeah.
right? And I guess the example here, it's like if you were to say, if you can check out my post on async, it would probably just like autocomplete the link because it has such broad context.
Yep.
Whereas, like I think Copilot just doesn't get that much context. It would just make up a URL. It would be like check out this blog post on async.io, and then the autocomplete link would just be like better data science or something.
I basically can like include memory really fast, give it memory of whatever really fast, like implicitly, almost.
Yeah,
I should check it out.
I'm gonna definitely. Great, we put you on Recast and better dictation. You just put us on cursor for writing. Cursor that's so obvious, but that's such a good idea.
Yeah, I felt stupid when like someone told me. I'm like, okay.
Because like I would love to use like Gemini with like cursor plus like a fine tune.
Oh, nice.
And just like your contact, and it's like that's one of I had a conversation with the cursor founder, and we were talking about like how if you could use like Mamba for writing code, but the issue was like if you edited code, you would have to like reinitialize the entire state.
Yeah.
But if you're writing one blog post and you had 60 blog posts in the context, that never updates. So you would like that state space would be incredible. It blew my mind.
Actually, I wanted to, I don't know if this is off topic, but I want to ask Hamel about your writing process. Like, how do you do that? Like, every time I see people who are very prolific writers or write great stuff, I'm just very curious about their process.
Okay, yeah. My process is like I get excited about something, and then I start with the title. I get excited about the title, actually. Like, and I get angry or like, oh, I think we got dropped.
No, I'm trying to figure out how to like showcase you as the speaker versus.
Oh no, it's not a big deal. So
sorry.
It's like, okay, like this latest blog post I wrote, like fuck you, show me the prompt. I was actually like really I have a blog post called fuck you, show me the prompt. And essentially like I kept hearing on Twitter like all of these different tools all the time. Jason and I privately shit post with each other on different tools and good ones and bad ones. And I like started looking at the code bases and stuff. And then anyways, that's not what you're asking. I guess like, yeah, I get excited about something. I start with like the title, get really excited. Like when I have the title, I have like a general idea, like, okay, why is it exciting? And then then the rest like flows. I spent a lot of time writing though, like way too long. Like
what do you mean a lot of time? Do you bang it all out in one sitting? Do you write a draft? Edit?
No, like I kind of like write it like that blog post, the fuck you show me the prompt thing. I think it took me like 2 full days. It's a long time.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's not like I don't know. Jason, he has like a process. He has like maybe I don't have AI integrated into my workflow enough or something.
My writing is not serious writing. And you can
Jason's
tell
40-minute
serious
thing
writing gets 20,000 views, and my not serious writing is like 500. But I mostly write for myself. But continue.
No, I mean it's like, well, okay, so I spent a long time like laboring over the message, and is it clear? And I like let friends read it. They tell me, and I like, keep refining it. It's like a piece of work, I guess. It becomes a piece. It always like takes like, I feel like in the order of like 3 days, like almost full days to write a good.
Yeah. So,
I mean, write a blog post, but
so
like
20
honestly,
hours
like
basically is kind of how you're
yeah,
coding.
and like I don't know. I mean, as far as like, it depends what you're optimizing for. Like, if it's optimizing for eyeballs, definitely not the right way to do it. Like, definitely not.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you right now, like, just like posting a picture of some random shit and putting it on Twitter, it needs like way more eyeballs than like a whole blog post. So, like, I mean, it just doesn't. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
So then,
just,
like, what do you
yeah.
optimize for in your work?
I need to optimize for something more deliberate. I'm just playing.
That's allowed.
That's nice.
Um,
That's really nice. Yeah.
What about you, Eugene? Because you write long, like serious, like research.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I want to know.
You're
about
like
your
Lillian
thinking.
Wang level, like 58-minute read. Like here's a survey of everything. Like I'm gonna save your engineer like 6 weeks of research. It's incredible. Like
Well, I'll be frank with you. The stuff I write, and Hamel says 3 days is long. It's like
yeah.
I can tell that approximately for every minute of reading time, it's about an hour of research and writing. So if it's like 40-minute, like the recent one was 40 minutes on synthetic data, it's like approximately maybe 20 hours reading like 20 papers, and then like 10 hours, like 5 hours banging out crappy draft, and like 15 hours rewriting and rewriting and rewriting.
That's crazy.
I've gotten it down a lot because I've written like 100, like the first time, the first times I started writing it, I had to just rewrite it 4 or 5 times until I got satisfied. Now I just don't have enough time, right? I'm like, okay, this is good enough. I'm like, right, and maybe I've just gotten a little bit better. And it's very clear who I'm writing for, right? I think for me, like the one that the 66-minute one, I was actually writing that for my business leaders, right? They were asking, okay, how do we use GenAI? I said, okay, I think these are the key patterns we need to think about. I'm gonna write about these 7 patterns, and then let's discuss them, like where we're gonna put our bets. Like the synthetic data one, like people like saying, like I had to scale myself, right? I can't be collecting labeling data all the time. So I was like thinking, okay, how can synthetic data work? And then people were like, synthetic data will never work. I was like, I actually don't know. Let me take a look at it. So I took a look at it. I wrote it out. Hey, I think synthetic data can work, and here's all the evidence. So that was like written for my peers, fellow scientists.
Hey, I'm really sorry. I have to drop off because I have a meeting.
No,
I'm already late.
Oh no,
It was so
sorry
much
for
fun.
running late.
yeah,
We should
Definitely
make
want to
this
do it
longer.
again. So
Yeah, for sure.
all right.
All right, take care, Hamel.
Thanks. It was a
Take
lot
care,
of fun. Thanks.
That's so funny because I feel like we both have such like different incentives.
It's different.
One thing I will call out though is I think you don't start writing it after 5 p.m. Like you write as part of your day job, right? Like
No, actually, I don't.
so
A lot of
you're
things.
reading these great papers like after hours.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
The thing is, in my day job, I'm working on things that I'm already really good at, right?
Yeah,
it's like
that makes sense.
it's like
Yeah.
I have to push that rock uphill. But then in my outside my day job, like maybe 1 or 2 hours every night, and like all the time on weekends, I'm like trying to sharpen the saw, right?
Right.
And then that's what got me to where I'm working on now, right? It's like when ChatGPT first came out, I was just hacking a lot with LangChain, building all these silly bots, but that gave me, and trying RAG and embedding based retrieval, and that's when I realized it really doesn't work. So like help me form my own view. So, but that's why I'm so inspired by the way Jason writes, right? Jason just
This is violence.
it's that Jason just lives the way he wants to live. Like and that was what I told you when I met you at AI Engineer Conference. Like,
it's like Jason, you're so free. It's like, no, I'm just mentally ill. No, but
you're just so spontaneous, right?
It feels that way. I definitely think it feels that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do write a few of those. Like the first time, like I was one of my tweets that probably did one of the best was like first rule of machine learning: don't start with machine learning. Because I was so sick of everyone asking me, Eugene, I need to use machine learning. No, don't start with machine learning.
Yeah.
I wrote a tweet that took off really well. Okay, I guess let's double down on it. Here's all the evidence on why you shouldn't start with machine learning. And I actually quoted Hamel in one of his interviews that he did for me. So that was cool. Yeah.
Eugene, can I drop my writing process, because I think you'll.
Oh yeah.
All right. Here's what I do.
Tell me your writing process. Yes. No,
Here's
but
my
the
writing
thing is, you just said it. It's like, oh, I just lean back, like all
Yeah.
these magical thoughts just come up from my head, and then GPT-4 cleans it up for me, and then bang, blog post in
Oh
40
yeah,
minutes.
yeah. No, because most of what I do is like improv and just complaining, right? And so usually the things I write about are the things that I've been experiencing over the past couple of weeks. And then so I just like, okay, I'm gonna dedicate 40 minutes and just complain. But it actually goes a little bit earlier than that, which is my writing process is now 4 filters. One, I tweet a shit ton.
Mhm.
And then like any tweet that gets like 30,000 views gets qualified as a piece of content I could write about in the future. So it's like these small ideas get filtered out on Twitter, and I basically get like a rank. I have like a ranking algorithm for like my ideas. Then I basically just take these ideas and I'll just rant for 40 minutes and I ask GPT to clean it up. What I've done recently is I hired a writer.
Ah.
So after the 40 minutes, I'll maybe take an hour or two to clean it up. I send it to my writer, my editor, really, because it's already been written. And then we'll have like a 30-minute call. And he'll just be like, okay, this has no structure. Like, what the fuck what are you trying to say? And then I'll just like, okay, like, this is how this came up. I have this problem because engineers are not thinking about XYZ. As a result, I think they're making this mistake. And if they fix this mistake, they can do this better. And then now they can do that. So a lot of it is just like I front load the research to Twitter and I just get everything out. And then I just have help because like
I think it's slightly different.
If I spend 40 hours writing, I've just foregone like $30,000 worth of
That
income.
amount of revenue, right? That's the thing.
Yeah. So
I actually think of it differently, and maybe I can rephrase it for the audience here. And maybe Jason, you can please feel free to correct me. What Jason is offloading Twitter is actually not the substance of the writing, but he's using Twitter to test what people are interested in. Yep. And then where does he get all the substance from? Well, a ton of experience, right? From his years at Stitch Fix, and then now he's just dabbling all over the place. Mm-hmm. And when you say you rant, I don't think your rant is like maybe only 30%, but like 50% of it is like solution. How to actually solve it. Because no one just wants to read a rant, right?
Yeah.
And that solution is like, I don't know, I read the looks good to me at K. Like it's a solution, right? Okay, here's record at K, maybe it doesn't work. Here's precision at K, maybe it's better. And so it provides a very good opinion. So I think that's useful. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I definitely need to learn how to write like Jason a little bit more. Like not take myself too seriously, not spend so much time on it.
But it's also right? Yeah. Because here's another thing too. Like I'll answer the question first. I have like my answer is very obvious of like why do I write? Right? What I'm optimizing for is when I do these sales calls, I can quickly identify 2 or 3 problems the organization is running into, and then I can share the blog post immediately. So usually it's like I'll give them 2 pieces of advice, and it's like, you know what, like what's the thing you're actually trying to measure? Like you're talking about like AI and search, but like how do you know what embedding to use? Do you have like a metric? No, cool. Here's a blog post. It's 4 minutes long. Here's a blog post. Read that if you have time. I'll follow up next week to see if you're interested in like working together. And so I can't have that be 60 minutes long because that's part of the sales process.
No one's gonna read that. Yeah.
Right. And so my blogging is kind of like preloading the fact that like 1, I can guess every problem you've had. 2, I've already suggested a solution. So all you need to do is pay me to like babysit.
Actually, I think 2 is more like I've already solved it. Hire me to solve it for you again.
So it's like you give away the ideas and you solve the implementation.
That's really interesting because actually the why I write is a lot of stuff. The things I write, I actually had no understanding of it, minimal understanding of it at the start. I'm forcing myself to write it. It's almost like writing a design doc, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna remove all this vagueness, all those bad ideas, try to clarify it, condense it in a doc. and then that. Hopefully that's useful for other people, but it's always useful for me. So regardless of, even if no one reads it, I gain.
Yeah.
But I can tell you at the start, my crappy stuff, no one reads it. But now I've got a little bit more readership.
Yeah, and the work is like incredibly high quality, and it's very educational for everybody,
Thank you.
right?
It's educational for me, and I make a lot of friends. Okay, I guess we have a couple of questions. Maybe we address.
Which one did you do? Look, I'm curious to do this one. Oh, sorry.
Have I considered video format? Jason, you recently created a video course. How long does it take to create 1 minute of content on video?
It takes me about an hour to make 1 minute of video content.
I have done a video course before a long time ago.
Yeah.
It takes it was a 58 minute video course about data science. It took me almost 60 hours. I was like,
yeah,
it's about the same amount of time. I mean, first you have to prep the content, and then you're doing that.
Did you hear Karpathy said it takes him about a minute an hour too, which means his like 2-hour tokenization video took him like 3
writing all that code
work.
I can imagine that, like, if you were to edit snappy, and then the editing thing was just killing me. I was like, I just can't edit it. Yeah.
When I said it, when I say a minute an hour, I don't even include editing because Waste and Biases edit the video.
Wow, that's a lot.
Because I mostly had to figure out how to structure the educational content that is in the right sequence. And then I had to make all the complicated code examples, because all of my examples were like, here's how you build RAG. I first have to like not just build it, but say, let me reduce complexity here for the sake of example, and then introduce it back later because this is not like a thing that you would do in production. Okay, but then really they need to understand this concept. So let me go fill out section 1 again. But even then, I didn't do any editing. It was like,
then that was because your content was just so rich, right? You had to think about all these different things, and then they just took care of it.
Yeah, like, and like the video is way harder than like the lecture. It takes me about 12 hours to prepare a 3-hour lecture, but it takes me like 40 hours to make like a 40
exactly.
Video.
That's exactly why I tried it. And I guess also in my line of work, your ability to write is very valued. And a big reason why I write is to practice, right? Just to practice writing. So would I consider video format? Only if it takes no effort, like what I'm doing, Jason and Hamel today, right? It's like,
think about it this way, right? I described it as like shooting a TV show versus like making a play. Like a play is easier to me. Because it's very bounded, right? Like if I just memorize my 2-hour script, I can present it.
Yep.
But with video, it's like there's all these cuts, and the cuts is actually like incredibly like laborsome, because I would never memorize a 2-hour. Like Karpathy doesn't like memorize a script. He says, "Let me go record this part. Let me record it 3 times."
Yeah. And then you see snappy, and then you can sometimes see the light changes, like from day to night. He records, okay, guys, it's late now. I'm gonna record the next part. The next day.
And like like the TV theater thing has been super interesting too, because with theater, it's like you just spent months ahead of time memorizing your content. Yeah. Like if I was to just teach you about Instructor, I could do it right now, and we can just go for 3 hours. But if I knew it had to be six sections, each section should be 1 minute long, and for each one there should be an introduction, then a context setting, and then at the end of every 1 minute video you should force out of the next second. So much work.
So I guess to directly answer the question, yes, writing is less taxing, more fun for me. Maybe it's because I just had so much more practice, and it's also like I have a 30-minute thing. Okay, let's clean up this 1 or 2 paragraph. It's almost impossible to record a 30-minute snippet for a video and then just.
It's just like clean it up. Yeah. I use Descript. It helps a lot. I guess another question here is, I think this is it.
This is it. Exactly. Yeah, this is it. It's like Jason and I have been doing this for the past several weeks. And then like the chemistry is great. And Hamel joined last week. And then it's like, okay, why don't we just do this and just talk about what challenges we're facing, and then let's just scale this, right? Anyone can listen in.
I mean, today we had like at the peak like 30 viewers, which is like
I saw 33,
double like last week. So I don't think the goal is to really grow this as a thing. I think it's mostly just like get the words down, and then
you know what we need to do. We need to take the transcript, put it in a Gemini, ask Gemini to organize it into a post.
Yeah.
So the people whereby there's two kinds of people, right? Some people are fantastic with podcasts. Some people are fantastic with reading. Some people are
Yeah.
fantastic with video. I get all my information via reading. So just get the transcript and just post it somewhere.
Okay, let's blast through some questions. But
When okay,
this.
yeah. So I was reading about synthetic data stuff. Yeah. Actually, wait. How can I share my screen?
Do you have permission? There's a present button at the bottom.
I just want to share my entire screen. Let's do this. Are you guys able to see my screen?
I cannot see your screen.
Oh wait, really?
No.
Okay, stop share. Shoot! I need to change my. I need to change my Chrome. No, I need to give it
Okay,
permission.
we
Actually,
can do
Jason.
another section, but
Yeah.
let's jump to another question because I'm really curious about your answer on this too. What do you think about prompt optimization, evals, and ground truth data sets? Are they going to be important in 2 years?
Yeah. Jason, you want to go first? I have a very strong opinion.
It depends on for who, right? I think like the ground truth data set is to help you as a business understand like what is the right direction to go into, right? Like it's always going to matter because at the end of the day, like if you build a model that's going to be used in a production setting, and for that I mean like generates revenue, right? Like critical path. You're going to want to be able to one, improve this system, and two, measure that system. And evaluations and ground truth data sets are going to help you in both of that. If you don't do that, you're kind of driving blind, in my opinion, right? Like, okay, maybe right now I don't know how a car works. And so it's like, it doesn't make sense for me to like have to learn how a car works to drive. But if I was like a professional racer, I still end up needing to know how a car works, right? Like at the highest level of actually trying to build a business and like create value, I think it's very important to still be thinking about these things anytime, because it's not like machine learning started today and then in 2 years we don't know what happens, right? It's like this has been a field for like 30 years, and throughout those 30 years, like the models get better, and the only thing that gets harder to generate is the data.
Yep.
Right. It's more important because now we don't even start thinking about it until it's like too late.
I would agree with that. I think that let's put prompt optimization aside. Let's just I'm just gonna answer based on evals and ground truth. I think yes, it's still gonna be important unless you can say that the foundation models are so well aligned with humans and have access to all data, including proprietary data within the business, right? And then okay, it has perfect truth and perfect knowledge. It's just always going to be an oracle. Then we don't really need to evaluate it. But if you think about it, even simple things like building a recommendation system or building a classifier, we still need evals to actually check check if the model is working, right? I think that evals is probably the one thing that we can never get away from. So, and maybe I'm just overgeneralizing this. You can imagine retrieval, right? Retrieval, you can probably build a standard retrieval capability that's a little bit of lexical search, a little bit of embeddings, a little bit of rexes, and it could probably work well for a decent number of use cases. Same thing for caching, same thing for guardrails. Guardrails, just guardrails on text or even images. But evals, it's going to be unique to every use case. Like I know Jason mentioned about summarizing an hour-long Zoom call, right? Okay, is recall important there? Is precision recall important there? Or maybe evals is like summarizing the Zoom call and then making sure that there's no proprietary information. Now that's a different set of eval. Or making sure that we clean up all the vulgar language in the Zoom call, etc. And or maybe can you actually get an LLM to do recommendations? Maybe, but how would you check it? How would you check if the recommendations are great? That's eval. And of course, a lot of the thing is because it's so easy to do it now that we tend to do it without too much concern about the scientific method, which is trying to measure it and to track it if it's doing better or worse. I think that's a little bit I think that's why I'm trying to focus a little bit more. I'm trying to scale the organization in terms of thinking about scientific method, which is eval. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah. Oh, Jason figured out how to feature the video. That's cool. Jason, you're on mute for some reason.
Oh, I just muted myself. I'm trying to
Okay.
figure out how to make the speaker the one that's like big. So I'm still struggling. Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
cool.
All these editings are just gonna confuse people. Control vector. Do you know anything about control vectors?
I have not tried it.
I mean, I think a part of it is just like if you build up the weights until at the end of the prompt, that ends up being a single embedding that you can probably just mix into the weights of your like attention mechanism.
Yep.
So I honestly don't know too much about this either, but I think what makes sense is like if there's any other questions that people have, you can like leave it in the comments. And if there's no questions in the next couple of minutes, I think we're pretty good to wrap up as well. I know you're a busy man, Eugene.
Yeah, I can't wait to hit the gym, go out for a nice dinner in this amazing weather in Seattle.
Oh yeah,
Are
I
there
can't.
any-
Are there any? I can drop one that is my favorite.
Go for it.
I think every company with no users should be any company with no users that are trying to build a recommendation system or a search system should be generating synthetic query data. So if we already have inventory or something that we want to search against, whether it's a person or a text chunk, I think we should just be getting GPT-4 to take in the data and just say like generate a question that would retrieve this document. If you just do it enough times, you'll already easily build a data set of just like hundreds or thousands of questions that you can evaluate your system on without any users. This will allow you to like make decisions on like what is the right text chunk size, what is the right architecture, should I use one index or two indices, maximize like precision and recall. And then as you get users, you'll just have more data. And at some point you'll either like wean off the synthetic data or that'll just be part of the data mixture that you use to evaluate your model. But at least in that search context, like every company should be getting free data in terms of relevancy, because at least the text chunk you use to generate that question should be in the results of that search request. That's a big one for me that I've been telling everybody.
I have something that's fairly similar. I think that if you're working this alone, what I think is extremely low effort that everyone overlooks is that you can time box yourself to a single day to label data. You'll be surprised. You can get a few hundred samples, and that would be fantastic evals. I've tried this myself, time box myself a day. Now and then everything just runs on the evals. That evals just makes it easier for you to change your prompts, change your rag, change your whatever, and you'll be great. And as that evals builds up, it becomes fine-tuning data, right? The one thing about low-hanging fruit in data that I really want to mention, I think that there's a lot of good data out there that is open source and permissive use. So what do I mean? I have a post that I wrote about how to use out of domain data to fine tune my own model, right? And that out of domain data, even if it's just 500, rows, it goes so far, and you can use it as an eval as well. So I recommend looking for out of domain data. I'm gonna drop a blog post in the chat, but I'm not sure if it's gonna show up. But I recommend looking for synthetic data.
You should leave it in like the Twitter thread.
Oh yeah, I should leave it in this. Yeah, I should be posting all of the stuff in the Twitter thread. I'll do that right now.
I want to answer this question real quick because
Okay.
it talks about like the control vector being attractive because it discards the fragility of natural language processing and natural language prompting. Those vectors work for a specific model, whereas the prompts approximately work for other models. Like I don't know if this is true in all cases, but that is something to worth considering, where the vector you generate for GPT 3.5, for 4, for Gemma, for Llama will be very different and likely more different than the performance of just having transferred the prompts. Or like obviously, like you got to change your prompt if you go to Llama from GPT 4, but I think it'll be again like a debugging thing, right? Like highly optimized code, the vector is much harder to understand than the less optimized code of like the words. So I think there's definitely a trade-off there that is worth considering.
How have you done that, Jason? Prompt
Hmm?
migration from model to model. Has it been a headache?
I just don't use any other model except GB4.
Ah, okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think changing models to me is mostly around like a margins and cost problem. It's cost
Yep.
optimization. And like, if you're doing cost optimization, I hope you're making money first. I think most people are just not making enough money for it to be worth it. Like, you know, like, and like cost shouldn't be an issue if you have a good business.
Yep.
Right? Like Chatbase, a buddy of mine, his company is like 230,000 MRR.
That's the 3 million a year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
think I saw a tweet on that. Yeah.
but his monthly OpenAI bill is 10 grand, 20 grand. So it's like 10%.
Yeah.
Like if OpenAI can be 10%, a good business, like it should be like 10% of your model, right? Like,
That's a perfect business.
right?
10%
Like, okay.
cost. That's tiny.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, maybe you move from GPT-4 to like Mistral. I was like, okay, how much do you save? You save $5,000 a month. Okay, well, that's gonna take your whole engineering team to like
Exactly.
Like one person.
Yeah.
Then like the math doesn't really work out. Whereas if you sell a product for $20 a month, that might be like 30% of your margin.
Yeah, I find that the cost of talent is usually far higher than infra or model costs.
Yeah, especially if there's people who want to like self-host these language models, and I was like, hey, I'll take your money, but I think you should spend it elsewhere. Like, it's not worth $20,000 a month to save $4,000, right?
Yep.
And then it's like, how much of that is just trying to get your time back from like CUDA errors, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's a lot of trade-offs that we've got to make that are like very reasonable. Right? Like unless you're like, it would make sense, for example, if your OpenAI bill was like 40 grand a month, then you could hire someone for 20 grand a month and save money. But
Yes.
saving $5,000 a month is not worth it because there's like that salary of that engineer doing this migration is probably worth like another salesperson in your business.
So where's the tipping point, Jason? If you have any advice on that.
Tipping point?
10, maybe 100,000 a month in terms of cost before you start thinking about this kind of optimization. So
well, I think of more like, are you tackling the upside or the like upside is infinite, right? Like if you just want to save money, you know exactly how much money you can save. It's just all the money.
And the maximum is only 100%. Yeah, you can only go down to 100%.
But you could like triple your business, and I just think there's other ways of like making that margin better. Just like charge more money if it is a great product, right? Like, I think so much of that ends up being like the value equation rather than the machine learning. And I think that's kind of maybe like a vice that like technical people really get stuck in. It's like, well, we could save money if we build it ourselves. And it's like, dude, I'm trying to save time and like build a business.
That's true.
Yeah. That's usually how I think about it. And for the most part, there's just been no reason to get off of OpenAI. Right? Like it would be a throughput issue. Like that could make sense where we just literally can't. It could be a privacy issue. But if it's a cost issue, then the thing you're building might just be not as valuable.
Yeah, I think cost is going to go down so quickly that I don't think cost would be a key issue. I don't think cost is a key issue this year. Or maybe even if at large scales, maybe in 2 or 3 years, it probably won't be. Probably won't be an issue.
I tend to agree. Yeah. All right.
This was fun, man.
So I don't think there's any more questions. So let's wrap it up here. Maybe someone else will cut up some clips and see how that goes. All right. It's always fun chatting with you.
Likewise. See you in the next one.
I actually might be out next week. I'm going to the Dominican Republic to go kite surfing. So no.
Take photos and videos. Oh, Charles! Dang. Okay, so 2 weeks later we got Charles and Hamel. Oh, just
Charles, you want to jump on the YouTube next week or the week after?
You want to have Charles? Maybe. Would it be too crazy to take 15 minutes for Charles to share with us his new adventure?
Oh yeah. I mean, okay. Can you send the invite link?
I'm sending him now. Charles, check your Twitter DMs. Again, I'm just assuming he's free, and he's not commuting, but we'll see.
Yeah.
See, this is amazing, man. This serendipity is
Exactly.
like we are just having a cocktail conversation with Hamel, and then like 1.5 hours.
I sent the
Okay.
link.
Yeah, I sent the link as well. Let's see if he shows up.
Yeah. I got time. I got time. You're not like super late for anything, right?
I'm late for the sunshine. Sun sets in 2 hours. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, 3 hours. Yeah.
I'm gonna go get some Georgian food after this, but I'm in no. Hey. So we
Hey, who's
just jumped you
this?
into the hello. This is so sick. I feel like this is actually super fun. Just having like random. Your mic.
I think we should be doing this every week or two.
I love that.
And so many random guests. And the thing is, we've got a little bit of a community build up. Yeah.
Hey.
Nice.
Charles, do you want to tell us how you got access to an H100?
Oh yeah. Yeah, so a year and a half ago, I saw a tweet from a tool called Modal Labs that they had A100s. I jumped on that and made a dumb little app that made pictures of my roommate's puppy, like this puppy in space, this puppy as a Van Gogh painting. And then that became my favorite tool. Jason and I have spent time like talking about how much we love this tool. And then after a year of talking about how much I love it on the internet for free, I was like, wait, what if we made this official? And I joined Modal. And Modal recently got access to H100s right around the time that I joined. They made those available. So hopped on that, got Gemma running on H100s, and yeah, just tried to make the GPUs go per, and got up to like 2,500 to 3,000 tokens per second at a 5-second latency, which was a ton of fun. H100 is still, a lot of the high level libraries don't work super well with them, but
Yeah. 3,000 tokens per second. I can't wait to extract some fucking quotes out of transcripts.
yes,
I
yeah,
I remember when I was taking Charles' course. Was it LLM for hackers? LLM bootcamp. And then
yeah.
you had this thing whereby you just like, okay, I'm just gonna send a modal command, and like bam, 52 machines. I was like, wow, I should check this out.
Yeah.
And
So-
I think yeah.
I got a question for you, because this was something that was asked to Eugene, which is like, why don't you make Karpathy style like 2-hour long lecture videos on YouTube? How long does it take for you to record a minute?
Yeah, it's a great question. With Descript, so that like there's this
Okay,
like
yeah.
quality thing, which
Yes.
is like how high quality do you want this video? And I think, like with this, people are happy to watch something where people are just kind of like chatting, there's interruptions, there's AV issues, and you just establish an expectation. They're like, yeah, this isn't super polished, super high quality, but like as AV, but there's high quality information. So if it's like that kind of thing, it can really be like maybe a 2-to-1 ratio with Descript, because all you need to do is like hop in, chop a little bit of like things here and there. Yeah, LM Bootcamp, that was like 8 hours of video, and I'm pretty sure I did all of that editing, including music gen to make like intro and outro music and stuff. I did all of that in probably 20 hours of work, maybe 40.
Damn.
But the content,
so that's like 2-to-1 to 5-to-1.
you had to prep all that content for LM bootcamp.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
That's
we're
true.
thinking
So
like
there's
from
like
idea,
editing.
like script writing, everything.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah, I probably, that's like 5-to-1 or 10-to-1 ratio. If you just
That's
count
pretty
time
good.
spent like making the slides. Like the AI Engineer 201 video, that was 3 hours of talking. I put it together in 8 hours the day before.
See, a lecture,
That's like probably highest ratio.
No, that's cheating, because you've already done this so many times. You've done this at the deep learning LM.
well, but I think that's what a lecture is. Like you shouldn't be giving
Exactly.
a lecture on something you don't know about. That's why it's like I think the
The thing
10
is-
to 1 makes sense.
Charles could have gone in without slides, and he
Yeah.
could have just spoken, and that would be
Yes.
super high alpha, because he knows all of it in his mind and already.
Yeah.
It's fair. You do want to find ways to amortize while, like, oh
Exactly,
yeah, I have these slides. Let me grab these slides over. Yeah. So as with trying to figure out where your costs are in a distributed system, it can actually be hard to nail down what seems like a simple number of how much effort went in and how much like content came out.
yeah, like the weights and biases course was like very challenging for me. That was like the first time doing videos.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, doing like an hour a minute. There's no way this is reasonable.
Yeah.
But
It's if you are doing the absolute highest tier of quality, like AV quality, like your Mr. Beast or whatever, then yeah, you have these super punishing ratios. But for like novel content, like really your value delivery is the quality of the content, right? Like
Yep.
this is something they can't find elsewhere. And so you can like relax a bit on the AV stuff. And I found people are generally very forgiving, except some small number of like anime profile picture commenters who complain about audio
Ooh.
issues or whatever.
shots fired.
I'm about to get a bunch of anime profile picture comments in the YouTube stream, I'm sure. No, I love anime.
Oh my
Don't
god.
worry.
When are we getting like anime waifus on H100s?
I definitely have not running one right now. I don't know why you bring that up.
You already have Stable Diffusion 3 up and running. Wait, are the H100s accessible to everybody?
Yeah, they're GA. I mean, there just aren't that many of them. So if you try and run like 1,000 things at once, you might
yeah.
like hit allocation limits or whatever.
I'm gonna train an embedding model over Wikipedia at 1 million context length. It's gonna be incredible.
Wow.
I'm down. Yeah. Big one key thing with modal is like parallel works, like parallel training, parallel fine tuning works well. Where by parallel I mean you have one node and you're just parallelizing it across multiple accelerators. Because there's no network, you don't have to think about failures. You don't have to think about all the like classic distributed systems fun, like scatter, gather, whatever. And so that like as long as you don't want to do like 32 H100s talking to each other, like as long as you're capped at 8, so 640 gigabytes of VRAM, then like it'll work well.
Incredible. All right. I do have to go now because I'm like late for dinner, but
Charles, thank you for popping on.
Oh,
Last
yeah.
minute mystery
Thanks for
guest, just
having
like Hamel last week, right?
yeah. So now
This
you're
is-
coming on next week, right? That's the deal.
I'd love to, yeah.
The week
love
after,
to,
right?
yeah.
I mean, you're out next week.
Yeah. I'm busy kite surfing. Sorry. I just we all have our battles.
We all have our things. Yeah.
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 All right. Take care, everybody.
This was fun. Peace out. Everyone have a good weekend.
Peace.
Let's see, both.
Bye.
Take care.